Hey, Tom here and Nick at the Run Testers, and we are going to be doing a versus, and it's an interesting versus because it's not two new shoes, it's one new shoe and quite an old shoe, but a lot of you have been commenting on a review we've been doing of the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, and how it compares with the Nike Pegasus Turbo 1 and 2.
This is the 2, but yeah.
So here we go, let's dive into these two shoes and see if they're actually similar. The Nike Zoom Pegasus Turbo 2 at release cost £159.95 or $180. It weighs in at 209 grams or 7.4 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 10mm. The Nike Turbo Next Nature costs £145 or $150. It weighs in at 253 grams or 8.9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The Zoom Pegasus Turbo was an incredibly popular shoe back when it was released in 2018. Combining Nike's ZoomX foam for speed with a more stable React layer means it can handle a range of training runs as well as race days. For such a versatile shoe, it's also surprisingly light, allowing it to tackle fast efforts easily, but still have enough cushioning to feel great over longer distances. The successor, the Pegasus Turbo 2, appeared in 2019 with a slightly updated upper design, but was largely a minor change from the original. Since 2019, Nike fans have eagerly awaited an update to the hugely popular Pegasus Turbo 2. Now, 3 years later, the wait is over in the form of the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. Like its predecessors, it's a shoe that's focused on speed, featuring a rocker design and the return of Nike's ZoomX foam in the midsole. Only this time, that midsole is made with at least 50% recycled ZoomX foam. The upper is made using Flyknit yarns for a secure, breathable and lightweight fit. It features SRO2 Cushlon technology to improve the overall comfort, and on the outsole is a waffle-inspired tread to provide grip and protection. Okay, so Nick, fit. How do these two shoes fit you?
Surprisingly differently. The Turbo 2 and the original, I was very happy in true to size. Nice kind of roomy, but very comfortable fit. The Turbo Nature Next, who knows? Turbo Nature, we'll call it.
Turbo Next Nature.
It's a bit long. I actually got sized down for my sample of the shoe to an 8.5 as opposed to my usual 9, and it fits me really well. So it's quite tight around the midfoot as well, I find. But yeah, I think definitely I'll consider going half size down in it. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the original Peg Turbo, perfect for me, no issues at all. I would say that the Peg 1 and the Peg 2 have a slightly different fit because the upper design of the 1 I think was far superior. They sort of tried to strip down a lot of the upper in the 2 to lose a bit of weight, but in reality it lost its structure. So I would say that the 2 is probably not, I mean they're both true to size, but I preferred the 1. The Next Nature, I talked about this in the review, it's quite an awkward fit for me. I definitely go down a half size. It's far too big for me. I have so much space at the front of the toe, but also the upper it's quite a, you get these sort of materials on like the Turbo, quite light, comfortable. This feels like a tote bag or something.
Yeah, it is. And it's got also these lines that really cause quite tight structure as well.
It's a really awkward shoe to get a good fit on, but I definitely go down half size.
Yeah, it might end up being a bit of squeeze around the midfoot though, is the only thing. That's the downside.
Okay, so run test in the two Pegasus versions. Let's go through it, Nick. What do you think?
Well, I loved the original Pegasus Turbo. Who
didn't?
Yeah, I think the only downside with it was that it was very easy to step on this and rip the midfoot.
Can I see a bit of glue on there?
Yeah, my friend did it, who's had this shoe for a while, and I ripped the original one, and there were some structural questions about the shoe, but in terms of running, it was lovely.
I did it on just before the start line of the New York Marathon, and I had to rush out and go and find some glue very quickly.
Surprising how well it performs when you've glued it, though. To be fair, It's nice, soft, right? It was like the first shoe, I think, that really brought super foams into training shoes, and not just because mainly Nike only had the only super shoe at the time, and it just felt great. The React it's the best React has ever felt, being underneath ZoomX, and it just created a lively, soft, comfortable ride. It was the ultimate all-rounder shoe for me. I raced in it several times. The first one I can remember, like the Pegasus original, with the proper original one, taking on every holiday I was running at the time, and I remember just running around a beach in it for like ages, just getting it soaked, and it still just felt great. And yeah, I loved it to the ground. It was, I think, a near perfect training run shoe. Probably rose-tinted memories at this stage, but I certainly didn't remember having many bad runs in it. How about you?
Well, interesting you talk about rose-tinted memories. So the original Peg Turbo, I remember the day I tried that shoe. Actually, the first time I tried that shoe was a 10K, and I PB'd by 2 minutes in it. So I'd never tried a super shoe.
Yeah.
I never tried a super shoe before. It wasn't really technically a super shoe, but it had super elements in it. And I did a 10K, and I was training quite hard at 10K, I was doing up to 10Ks, and just dropped 2 minutes. So it was an amazing shoe, and I loved it instantly. I absolutely loved the fit. I loved the way it felt. But yeah, talking about rose-tinted glasses, when we got to test the Next Nature, I was talking about how good the shoe was. So I've actually took it out and I went and did an interval session, about a 15K interval session in it last week, and it's still fantastic. It's still absolutely fantastic. It feels so light, but it just feels just enough cushioning. It's like the Mach 5, Hoka Mach 5. In fact, I probably still prefer this to the Hoka Mach 5, I'd say.
It's been a lot closer into that, but at the time there was very little that really could go against it.
So I think it is still an absolutely fantastic shoe, and it runs so well. I think I probably only went to half marathon in it. No, I did New York Marathon in it. Yeah, which I loved. It was fantastic. It's an amazing shoe. Oh, I wish they'd brought that back.
But instead they brought back this, which is the Pegasus. Now there's kind of two things here really about. Obviously we're comparing it directly to this, and it's very different. And then we'll talk about maybe the properties of the shoe as it is. But certainly the first time I went out and ran in this shoe, it's a lot firmer than this. The recycled ZoomX has a much firmer feel. It doesn't give as much bounce. It's maybe a little bit more stable because it's a bit more firm, but it's certainly, you're not getting the lively feel of this. And it is heavier as well. It's noticeable on the foot, it's fair to say. So probably a slightly disappointing first run for you as well.
Yeah, well, this is where we... If Nike had called it a different type of shoe, it would have been. I wouldn't have had the issues I had with it initially, because I was very. Everyone's been excited. You've seen the leaks on Instagram and stuff where people talking about the new Turbo is coming out and this is it. So I think that I was disappointed when I tried it initially, just because I had the same experience as you do, and I was comparing it with the Turbo and the Turbo 2. But that's changed a little bit.
Yeah, for me as well. I ended up really liking the shoe. I think there's still probably better options on the market these days, but I took it away on holiday actually, and used it for everything. I did a long run in it, I did some intervals in it, I did some faster runs in it, took it down a track one time, and it still does everything. It still is a good all-rounder shoe. It's a firmer feel, and I have to say it landed at the perfect time for me. I was talking to you about this earlier, where I'm in the kind of dog days of marathon training plan. I don't feel stable on my legs. My legs are tired, and having a firmer shoe these days is exactly what I want. Like the days when I'll just cruise for my easy runs in the Nike Invincible and things like that, I probably won't do that anymore. I'm now looking for firmer shoes that are offering a bit more stability, just because I feel tired. And this came at the right time for that, because it is a pretty lightweight all-rounder shoe, and it was still good on track. It wasn't an all-out track session. I was running 800 metre reps, not kind of that fast, but there was a lot of them, and this has protected the legs well. And I have enjoyed using it. I have to say, I think it's a nice looking shoe as well. In that track session, I swapped to the Peg Turbo 2 actually, for the last 200 metre reps. And I pulled this on, and it just felt amazing. And it felt so light and soft. But actually, I was then relieved to put this back on, because I wanted a slightly... And part of that is that this shoe is knackered. It's lost its bounce, because I used it for loads and lent it to a friend who's absolutely smashed it as well, and ripped the midsole in half. And maybe originally, so it has bottomed out a little bit, this shoe. This shoe was actually nice to run in after that, because it was a bit firm, a bit more stable. I think the foam does soften up a bit after the first few uses, and I think it's going to last a long time. So yeah, I ended up, I have to say, liking it quite a lot, but it was probably still a slight disappointment. How about you?
So yeah, for me, I'm not as positive about it as you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad shoe. I don't particularly, I just don't think it excels in any area. So that ZoomX foam for me, yeah, kudos to Nike for working on sustainable elements, but we're not reviewing sustainability here, we're reviewing the performance levels of it. So I think that ZoomX foam, it's a little bit dull for me. It just doesn't do a lot. I think the way I look at it is that there's nothing this shoe does particularly well. but there's nothing it really does badly. Like every run I've done in it, I've kind of finished and gone, yeah, it's fine. Whereas, you put on the Speed 3 or something, it excels in areas. You go, that just felt amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of a dull shoe for me. It doesn't really do a great deal. I've not had any major issues in it. I did a park run in it. I did a proper park run, tried to get a fast time in it. Didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it loses a bit of top end because it's heavy, because it is heavier.
Yeah. Although Mike in the review did suggest that ZoomX foam, for him, it feels a bit better when he's running at speed because he's putting more impact on it. So it's sort of...
Yeah, I'll probably agree. It maybe feels... That doesn't feel... Well, I suppose what I mean, it doesn't feel as good as fresh ZoomX.
No.
Or other Peba foams on the market. It feels actually quite similar to the Pebax used in Decathlon's carbon plate register, which is a bit firmer and softens a bit over time, but doesn't deliver the same kind of, sink and squish, and then rebound. You get a lot of rebound, but there's not much squish in, and it doesn't feel as good.
Yeah,
I agree. Actually, I think we agree with maybe just slightly I think we agree doesn't do anything,
different points of the training cycle.
Exactly. Doesn't do anything that well. Doesn't do anything that badly. I think in its day, it came out at the same time as this shoe. This has been probably higher rated, but unflattering comparisons to this are one thing.
Yeah.
It's the unflattering comparisons to the shoes that are on the market now that are the problem.
Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a tricky birdie because I think you can probably still find this somewhere, but choosing which one you should buy is probably not very fair at the moment. If you can still get this one, maybe have a look at this one. But Nick, which one would you go for given the opportunity and they were both available?
I would get the original one. If it was both available, you can find this shoe, I'd get it. Almost, I think we should probably say, if this shoe is not the successor to the original Peg Turbo in terms of actual performance, what is? And for me, it's probably more something like the Hoka Mac 5. Yeah. Maybe even the new Nova Blast 3, actually. Although, maybe it's a nice bounce. It's a really nice daily trainer with a bit of pace in it. But probably more like Mac 5. If you had your druthers and both were available, which one would you be picking up?
I just think that the ultimate difference is that the original Peg Turbo 1 and 2 is a performance shoe. I just don't think the new Next Nature is a performance shoe. I think it's a general running shoe. I also think it looks a little bit like a lifestyle shoe. I think that's probably, it's probably trying to tick a lot of boxes without really excelling in any area. Don't think it's bad. I think if you were just, general runner, you wanted a pair of shoes that looked nice and had a bit of sustainability in it, fine. You're going to be disappointed if you buy the shoe as your training shoe for marathon training or anything like that. Yeah,
you can use it for that, but there's certainly better options. Actually, it's interesting. I almost, thinking about what you're saying about lifestyle shoes, I used to love the Ultra Boost when it was a lighter, less mad-looking shoe, and it was so calm. It was my favourite walking around shoe as well. And actually, this is probably a similar vein to that, but it's a bit lighter and more, and it's better performer than even the original Ultra Boost. So there's a little option there. Like if you want a shoe that you can just walk around that is going to run quite well, then it is that. Although it depends how much you like the look of this kind of polystyrene midsole they've got going on, which I don't mind, but it does attract little weird knots of dirt, I've noticed. But it's. I'd say Nike has had some real duds this year. I really don't like the Zoom Fly 5. I haven't been massively in love with the Zagama, things like that. I don't think this falls in that category. I think it's still a good running shoe, and I enjoy using it. I just think it's outclassed by some other options, including the older version.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little bell icon, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got on latest road and trail shoes, as well as running headphones and watches out at the moment.
Listen to the podcast.
And listen to the podcast. So if you go into the caption below, you can listen to our monthly podcast where I believe in the next episode we're going to be answering questions about carbon plate shoes. So
depends how quickly I edit that video.
Yes, depends how quickly you edit that video. At some point in the future, there will be a podcast with carbon plate shoe questions answered. But thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.